Oh, it's another episode of Wellness Check, and boys, the state of the country is not well.
It's
Yeah,
crispy.
there's riots.
Well-
We're having
well
another
done,
guest.
lady.
Fuck.
I mean, I don't know about Australia. Australia's probably pretty chill, right?
Yeah, we're easing actual restrictions with coronavirus, but because we have like very few actual cases, so it makes sense.
Boring. The United States is in insurrection. So we're talking about that instead.
Yeah, we're talking about history as it happened.
But I obviously there is very little to talk about in the news other than the fact that 8 American cities or so are in complete rebellion, including up in Atlanta, which is the closest major city to me. These are Black Lives Matter protests, obviously, and we can talk about. There's been some debate over exactly, how much of this is just related to general unrest, just a general feeling that the public sphere of the United States is not, a credible organization. You know what I mean? It doesn't have any, it doesn't stand for anything that anybody particularly values or cares about, up to and including the fact that it will straight up just murder its citizens when it finds it necessary. So that's what's happening in America right now, and I don't know. I for one feel a little guilty saying this, but we'll say it nonetheless. Kind of love to see it.
Bob,
I
do you
mean-
have any thoughts, being as our premier guest?
You're the only other American here.
Yeah, you're the
So,
other-
Back me up on this.
Yeah, don't ask, didn't care. Plus, you're an Australian. Yeah. So, hi. I'm Bob. In from the Bad Praxis podcast. Just to get the introduction out of the way.
Oh, fancy pants over here. What's an introduction? He says.
Yeah.
You're
yeah,
the
it's-
second guest we've had from Bad Praxis.
Yeah.
So,
We're taking your podcast and spreading it all around.
Well, Bob, I really appreciate it. And this gives me an opportunity to plug our first sponsor on Wellness Check, royaltyportraits.com. If you want to feel like a frilly ass ninny, just like Bob from Bad Praxis, who requires a formal introduction before the podcast begins, you can go to royalportraits.com, enter the promo code I am a sissy. That's I am a sissy, all caps, to get 10% off your first order. Thank you to Royal Portrait,
So,
our first and very
Yeah.
real
what's
sponsor
the
of
biggest
so-
thing that's on fire for you, Bob?
so
What's the
you laugh, but it was a lot of hard work lugging my microphone and laptop to the portrait place.
So yeah, Bob,
No,
what's
I
the-
didn't mean to interrupt you though, Sir Bob of Bad Praxis Stand. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. But seriously, America is on fire. It's pretty cool. Question mark?
I agree with cool with a question mark. You love to see like police precincts get burnt to the ground. But I think, and this is a more tempered view than like I have on Twitter, I guess. But there's, you just wonder what the state's gonna do next.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a little bit because I had some thoughts on that are actually a little bit frightening to me. I'm really struck by the degree to which it really does seem in their public pronouncements that you would the sorts of characters I would expect to be full of nothing but fire and brimstone during a situation like this, who don't want to talk about anything but the fact that they're about to crush all dissent that that disrupts the great and noble state of Georgia or whatever, and that's not really happening here. There is some of that from your more cop type, military type people, but even my governor, who is an out and out shithead and right winger, didn't strike me as particularly confident when he addressed the unrest going on in Atlanta. When he pleaded with people to be peaceful, and orderly, it really did sound to me like pleading. And that's what feels so different about this situation because, we've had riots before, people have been unhappy before. It always seemed like in the end, the state, only really had to sprinkle a little bit of repression around to keep a lid on things. It doesn't feel like that's where we're going. It feels like we're going for something darker, maybe. Which is why that's where the question mark after cool comes from for me, anyway.
The state obviously expected like a normal protest to happen after all of this, and the folks in Minneapolis, wow, took that to pretty next level quickly, and a lot of cities followed. I don't know where it goes from here. Like something you talking about Brian Kemp made me think about this, where I'm a little more afraid of these freaks if they feel scared. Like it's
Right.
one thing to have like the blustery dipshits like Tom Cotton talk about like sending like the 10th Mounted Cavalry to like raise Berkeley to the ground or whatever the fuck he was saying today. But someone like Brian Kemp, who we know is like a dead-eyed psycho, seeming nervous or scared at a press conference, that's kind of uncharted territory, and I guess I worry that's going to end up being a call for like a harsher reaction from those guys.
I know people have been talking about this before, and it's not that I thought they were like crazy for bringing up the possibility, but it just didn't seem likely to me. And in the coming or in recent days has seemed more and more and more likely to me is that it's possible the election in November might just straight up not happen. Not in any like real sense. They can try to cancel it and people could say, oh, Trump doesn't actually have the power to cancel it. And it was like, yeah, I get that. But, there's going to be a lawsuit. Those take time. And in the meantime, all the Republican governors of the states can just be like, hey, we stand with the president. And we're not having a fucking election. And then at that point, like, even if the remaining states do have an election, it's not credible anymore. And we're in totally uncharted territory. And that combined with the fact that, we've moved past calling in the cops, calling in the SWAT team, even calling in the National Guard, and are straight up just discussing calling in the regular army to just run things. I mean, this is the kind of shit that happens in authoritarian regimes with the trappings of constitutional government and nothing else. And that's, maybe you could argue we've been at that point for a while. I certainly think in some ways we have, but I do think there's a point at which, things tip and you can't recover. Maybe. I'm not saying that means like all the protests and rioting should stop, but I'm uneasy about the future. And I think a lot of people are, even as we, broadly cheer the sort of like, go to hell sentiment out there because, what the fuck are these cops even defending anymore, right? Yeah, what is America?
Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah, the Cheesecake Factory and a place to get like, cheap Chinese made goods, that we really don't need and sold off our manufacturing capacity to make ourselves, a million years ago, it seems. I don't know. It really does feel weird to live here. And I live in a relatively small town. There's no unrest in my area. The cops are not out on the streets looking for people to bust up or anything like that. But I still feel like I'm in a different universe now than I was even, 4 days ago. And I wanted to ask Nick, because I know he's like far away.
Yeah,
he's kind of watching. Well, like literally far away, and literally watching this with an outsider's perspective. If anything feels different to you, or if at all, and in what way?
The feeling I've gotten over like these protests and subsequent actions is essentially that it feels it feels like something that was inevitably going to happen. So it's not that like, oh, we're in so much as uncharted territory. More so the fact that like, this just felt like something that was long overdue. Essentially, that's what I've felt like when I've been observing these protests.
I mean, maybe the analogy might be something like a wave bigger than any you've seen in quite some time, bigger than many people who are alive can remember. Is like coming, and you see it coming. But then when it hits, like it does still feel, like something you didn't anticipate, even though you literally you literally did anticipate it. You could see it coming.
Yeah.
Because just a couple months ago we were still entering the cool zone before any Black Lives Matter protests started happening.
Like you've obviously got the combination of unemployment being as high as it is, and probably since the Great Depression.
It's worse.
Literally,
yeah, it's getting worse. Yeah, like one can only assume that this type of unrest, like, will continue. Essentially, not this. Probably not like, every single day for the next year or whatever. You'll have a protest to this like strength or like or size or whatever. But like periodically, it would make sense that these kinds of incidents keep happening, essentially, like over the coming months, like, maybe one weekend, 1 month, and then like a week, another month, and stuff like that.
Well, I mean that's true, but I want to, I think I need to pivot us a little bit because we're getting a little too real, we're getting a little too sad. And there's hope on the horizon, and it doesn't lie in the hearts of any protesters. Actually, believe it or not, it lies in the mouth of one Joseph Robinette Biden,
the future president.
Because it's funny how when you're in a time like this, the sort of anodyne sentiments that liberals often spew at you feel so much different. 8 years ago, the president of the United States or candidate president of the United States asking about having a national conversation about race and police violence would seem like the most tame, normal, boring shit ever. But when Joe Biden promises me a national conversation led personally by him about police violence and racial problems in America, I can't help but not be angry at the pablum that he's offering, but just enthusiastically desire it more than anything. I would love to hear Joe Biden talk endlessly about fucking criminal justice. I would love to hear him talk endlessly about anything, frankly, because I think he's hilarious.
Yeah, you just have to end it with, I would like to hear him talk endlessly. That's it.
But it is really funny to hear him, trip over his own dick about this sort of thing. I mean, he's already out there. His big thing today, his big piece of knowledge was, some people want the cops to stop shooting everyone and killing them. Other people want cops to shoot everyone and kill them. And so I say, no, let us be reasonable. Cops should shoot everyone in the leg.
I think that's better than his actual quote.
Yeah, that seems a lot nicer.
That seems it's smarter and more reasonable than him going to a church, babbling for about 20 minutes, and then talking about first he said unarmed people, and then he corrected himself to say someone charging at you with a knife. And that you should shoot them in the leg instead of the heart.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Hard because cops are famously good marksmen.
Between their hot dog necks and their aimsmanship, I can't tell which is better.
I forget where I heard this first, but one of my favorite little factoids that I once learned is that they did a study once and they looked at thousands and thousands of shots fired by the New York Police Department over years and years and years. And the percentage of shots that hit anywhere close to what they were aiming at was 30%.
It's worse. It's like 17.
Well, I think 30% was like the most generous sort of
like a reasonable miss.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly that kind of thing. Like giving them every benefit of the doubt. Like, was their aim something close to true? 30% of the time, which is like not even most of the time. And
It's
these are
not even a
probably,
good
you know,
batting. It's barely a good batting average.
oh no, it's not even a good batting average, and I'm not even really into baseball. So, and I know this, like that's fucking garbage. And these are weapons that they kill people, and they can kill people with a single bullet. Like it doesn't take more than one.
Well, it's like how every police shooting, it's like, oh yeah, the police unloaded 56 rounds at the person, but only.
I'm sorry, I think you mean officer involved shooting.
Oh yeah, sorry.
That's
See,
that's creepy shit. That I've never before. I mean, I've noticed the Orwellian sort of language shifts around violence when it's done by protesters versus when it's done by police, but like it's never really stuck out to me more than now. It's insane.
One of the most fascinating things during the last 4 or 5 days has been I believe it was a Washington Post quote. So they were trying to do a timeline of events and like violence, and so the first bullet point they used a passive voice to describe the cops killing the man in Minneapolis,
George Floyd.
and then the second bullet point they used the active voice to describe protester quote unquote violence, and then the third bullet point when they talked about more police violence, they were back to the passive voice of where a journalist happened to be affected by tear gas.
How unfortunate.
They came upon a chasm in the earth and got gassed. It's awful. They should have done a double jump over it.
Or just like, or just, they didn't see when the perilous indicator flashed over the cop's, helmet
Right,
and pressed B to dodge. Like, it's
Yeah,
fucking ludicrous.
Journalists failed the QuickTime event, so
I do think it is creating a little bit of a weird, like, not some of the libs are living as normal. Don't be violent. I support police reform, but some of them are seeing like, their buddies who work in media getting the shit kicked out of them or whatever, and they're thinking, oh, damn. Even they're hedging a bit.
well, yeah, that's because like the amount of journalists who have fucking waved their lanyards at police and still gotten the shit kicked out of them. It's like it's essentially all of them now. Like your lanyard is absolutely fucking nothing to police anymore.
The MSNBC host Ali Velshi got gassed, and he's pretty upset about it. He's mad and he's putting the blame where it belongs. But when he's interviewed on MSNBC about it, they have like at least like 3 hot dog necks on the panel, and the reaction in the studio to him is just like, it's funny that you got gassed. 2, that's what happens when you're at a protest. 3, it's funny that you got gassed.
Didn't he also get shot with rubber bullets as well? Or am I thinking of another reporter?
There was a reporter that got shot with like pepper paintballs.
Oh yeah,
like
I
on
didn't
live
even know that was a
TV.
thing. I didn't
Oh,
even know
yeah.
that was a thing until now. Yeah, there's like these. It's like these paintball rounds, although they feel more like bean bags on you, so they're concussive and they hurt. But also they have like, I don't know. It's almost like a special move. It's like the cops upgraded their skill tree and like add poison to your paintball bullets. Like, it's fucking crazy out there. And I really do feel like a lot of these, like, I don't want to give them too much credit, but some of these libs are seeing, they're getting this shit kicked out of them, or starting to reconsider their priorities. Although importantly, I think like CNN, MSNBC, like as corporate entities, like their individual anchors, reporters, camera people might get upset or whatever, that those problems will either pass or they'll be passed over, and they'll find more people to join CNN who will tote the line, because at the end of the day, like, it's their job to make money, and not to put too. I don't want to be too blunt, and it's not like I've heard anybody say anything like this, but when one of CNN's camera people gets the shit kicked out of them live on air or arrested live on air, like that the fucking CNN boardrooms rubbing their hands together, counting money. Like that, that's huge for them. Everybody's gonna be watching CNN. Oh my god, did you see what happened? Even the fucking CNN guys getting taken in, and those guys are just gonna be raking it in. At least that's how I see it.
I will say that to get off the media for a little bit, it has been heartening to see some of the more normie libs in my life have the proper reaction to this, which is that the protests are good. Fuck the police, and who cares that like a Target got busted up.
Yes, there's been a way less equivalency been driven or drawn between protesting violence and cop violence. And I don't know, this might be a good time to pivot to police violence of a less overt nature. I need to like put a sound drop here of something spooky, because now enter like eye emoji zone. Because I am convinced that at least some, and I have no idea how much, of this violence and looting is being done by cops, not in uniform, or their supporters or sympathizers, who are beginning the violence in order to serve their own agenda and justify the cracking of heads.
Well, so I think most people listening to this will have seen one of the many videos online of cops busting up their own vehicles.
Yes.
Oh, the Boston Police Department?
Cops busting up storefronts.
I saw Seattle police doing. It looked like they were looting a store.
Yeah, they're just like 5 ambulatory thumbs with sticks bashing out a window.
And I saw the Minneapolis police vandalize and set their own car on fire. I saw that too.
Yep. I saw some New York cops just like wailing on their own vehicle.
And you got to think that for every video that you see, there's 10 incidents that haven't been recorded. Sorry, Nick, go ahead.
I was just about to say, like, if these cops really wanted to overdo it and oversell it, they should hit themselves and beat up themselves. I mean, come on. Vehicles and stuff, come on. It's too obvious at that point.
It's just like go fucking Fight Club on their own faces, like in that one scene.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that would really own me. That would own me. That would own the shit out of me if you like broke your own arm, cops. You like
it would just prove how valuable you are if you hurt yourself.
I mean, I can't think of any. There would be no counter to that sort of propaganda. So, like, whatever you guys do not start beating yourselves up. Do not continue to go like Honda mode on your own cop cars. Just like mashing the A button as you flurry attack your fucking patrol vehicle in order to own the libs. Yes, don't keep doing this. That would be bad. I don't know. I was gonna say, I'm not by nature an incredibly conspiratorially minded guy. I'm really not. Like, those people weird me out mostly, but more crazy shit happens, and it doesn't actually seem like there's real evidence of, blackback shit. I mean, what can I do but, shrug my shoulders and say what I see. Sorry, Bob.
So like two points. One, what you just said. Personally, I don't know how we can live what we've lived through for the last year and not have conspiratorial thinking just become a part of our everyday thought. This isn't the time or place to get into it, but I can't view things anymore without like my third eye like being open a little bit. What I was gonna say previously is when you started talking about cop violence of a more insidious nature, I thought you were going to be a little more subtle about it and talk about all of these bullshit photo ops the cops are doing in protests, where like the chief of police marches with the protesters, all the police kneel or something.
Oh
And then
yeah.
an hour later, they're beating the shit out of those people.
I mean, we should talk about that. The only reason I didn't bring that up first is because there's just so much news, and frankly, that's really a phenomenon I only really like caught on to today when I was catching up. I knew some of that shit was happening, and I was thinking like, what, like this can't possibly be working on any large scale. Like, how dumb are these protesters? But apparently, like, in at least a few places, like some people have been credulous enough to take them at their word when they say like, yeah, we also want police reform, and so we'll march hand in hand with you. This is a bad idea.
Well, it's a good tactic from the cops because
oh yeah, for sure.
Because you can see how people might be scared to say no.
Yeah.
Because then, it's much easier to. These are just like violent, like Antifa thugs. But also thinking like, if we don't do that, like, how bad is like tonight gonna be? When in fact, it's gonna be bad either way, because that's what they do. They're just trying to soften the target up a little bit.
I can't begin to like know exactly all the ways in which like this would profit the police to trick organizers. I mean, I can think of many potential ones. But to me, the bottom line really is this. If those cops really are sympathetic to their demands, like I would say, yes, they could join the protesters, but they need to hang up their badge and gun first. Like, you can't wear that uniform or work for the police department and do that. It's just not possible. Maybe that sort of thing might have been possible in some police departments a while ago. I don't know, but I know that in this moment, it just doesn't. It's not helpful. Even if you're a fucking cop, and I take it your word that you really are sincere and want police reform and want to join with these protesters, like, you're not doing them any favors by linking hands with them. You aren't, and your support is actively harmful. I think if they really are upset about what's happening, they should go home. They should take the day off. They should tell their sergeant they're sick.
Well, we have actually seen, at least I saw one person online, and I'll assume it's true, but one police officer has said that they've resigned in shame. Yeah. So that's the actual proof.
I mean, I guess all cops are bastards, but like, when you stop being a cop, I give you props. You're not a bastard anymore, right? Does that seem reasonable to you guys? I don't know.
I'd say that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah. You're becoming better. I have a friend of my little family who a couple of nights ago protested in Indianapolis, and she was acting as a street medic, and she was a pretty normie lib, and after what happened that night, she's just like completely burn it all down. Like,
I mean, it's
like,
hard not to be when you see videos of them like knocking grandmothers to the ground with riot shields.
Like her story was that like the protest was actually like starting to calm down a little bit, and people were starting to go home. And she was toward the front of the line as she was acting as a street medic, and she said first, like, the tear gas started like all of a sudden. And then there were three separate charges from the police into the lines of protest, like Game of Thrones shit, with shields and clubs, and and she's like, I'm done. Like, fucking, maybe revolution is the thing to do. Which coming from someone who was a lib, like, that's a lot. That's a big leap.
You legitimately love to see it. I mean, I feel revolutionary in the sense that, like, I do want radical change, and I want it quick, and I'm not necessarily keen on the ballot box, especially now being the pathway in the immediate future. I will say that and leave it there. But I also think for me, it's, I the burning it down is less than half the project, and it does need doing. But it's not the part that I particularly relish very much, just dispositionally. I like peace and quiet and to be relaxed and comfortable myself. I'm a soft old piece of shit in this way, I guess. But I absolutely understand that, like, you must tear it down before you can, build something better. And a lot of these structures that constitute the American state, like, it's the bad shit is all that's left. Like, the government can't get you a good job. It can't raise wages. It can't do anything but cut taxes for rich people and fund useless wars and pay cops to murder you when you get upset about any of that. And that's America today. Like, that's the flag. That's what Uncle Sam represents. And I really do feel like that, plus the fact that, a lot of people don't have jobs to go to, means that, like, these protests are huge and they're probably going to keep happening. Like you said, like, not continuously for the rest of time or anything, but they're not, this energy's not going away. That's for sure. You know what I mean?
I'm glad you brought up the flag specifically, because one of the starkest images of the weekend were cops in Cincinnati taking the American flag down and hoisting up a Blue Lives Matter flag.
That's fashion. I saw it.
It's literal fascism.
It's fashion shit. We're overthrowing the state. Literally, what could be more symbolically powerful than lowering the American flag and raising up the American flag with that fucking stupid ass thin blue line in it?
It's just a naked call for violence. It's like you might as well just put on the radio, like, at 8:00, the purge begins.
I guess we could talk a little bit about, like, what just happened a couple hours ago. Because, like, I should add that, like, literally as we're recording this, like, unrest is continuing, like, as I speak, and cheered on from my armchair here in my secure bunker next to a Polish revolutionary and strategic water reserves in Middle Georgia. But it's like the president, I did catch the end of his live address to the nation. And I thought this was a little funny. It was pretty short, and it was basically what you'd expect. George Floyd being killed. Whoa, that was terrible, but that's no excuse for all the Antifa and the arson and the riots and the raping. We're going to call the National Guard out and the military, and they're going to be so heavily armed. It's going to be beautiful. And then he finished all that up with something. He got a little weird look in his eye and a weird tone in his voice. He said something very close to, and now I'm going to honor an incredibly sacred place. And he said it in a really weird way, with a glint in his eye. And he walked off, and he wandered back into the West Wing. And I was trying to figure out, and I was talking to Jane, what the fuck? Where's he going? I don't even know. Like, where? It's 7:00 at night, literally on the dot. It turns out he's walking over to St. John's Cathedral now, like, and that's where you saw the picture of him waving the Bible around and declaring, I guess, that God is with the American soldier as he crushes the vicious Antifa. But the point of all that was, and the reason he got that glint in his eye, is because he was thinking, great, boring part's over. I gave the little speech they wanted me to. Now let's kick off the night. I'm going to walk over to St. John's, and wouldn't you know it, there are protesters out there. They're going to need to be cleared so that the president can walk through. Great. So now the president gets to start off the little night with a little show where straight up in the nation's capital, soldiers and cops beat and gas the shit out of a mob of peaceful people who are pissed off about stuff that they have every right to be pissed off about, so that Trump can walk over to the cathedral and wave a Bible in his grubby fucking Cheeto ass hands and proclaim that God loves him and America and his fat ass fucking evangelical hot dog neck followers. Like, this is his way of getting a handle on the situation. He's in control, don't you see? This is his fucking plan to run a TV show. Like, that's all he's ever doing, right? Like, it really feels like more and more people are kind of waking up to something approaching this reality that I'm describing and realizing, like, oh shit, nobody is in charge anywhere. Like, nobody has a handle on anything that's happening.
Yeah, there is one entity that is like in charge and does have like at least a little bit of control, and that's the cops.
Right.
Like,
on a micro level.
there's
Certainly.
it's been interesting to me to see how feckless various mayors and municipal leaders are in the face of cop violence.
I wanted to ask Nick about this in a second, but I just want to say for me, it is one of the most amazing things that I've discovered about America is that in almost every size town, like I don't live in a very big town, although it is, like we were talking about before, Bob, it's bigger than yours, but I'm nowhere near like Atlanta size or even Columbus or Macon, which are the other two big principal cities in Georgia, basically Savannah too. Way smaller than any of them. And yet I know that our council and our mayor, they in a lot of ways also answer to the police department of my town. And it is basically exactly the same all the way down from my little town all the way up to New York City. Like, that's how it is, it seems like, almost everywhere. Whether your state is red or blue, whether you're in the north or south, whether your city is big or small, your mayor isn't really in charge. He basically answers to whoever the police chief is, or the sheriff, or whatever,
or the head of the cop union. Honestly,
yeah, or
those wield incredible amounts of power.
we could do a whole episode on
The one
cop
bad
unions,
union.
But I wanted to ask, like, if it's anything, like, I think we could use a foreign perspective on this. Not that Australia is that exotic, I guess. But like, is this a sort of feeling that you get anywhere in Australia at any level, Nick?
That the police are holding
That really, at the end of it, like, even though legally speaking, like, the chief executive and guy in charge of the town is like, you know, the mayor, the premier, prime minister, whatever elected official, democratic official, right? In reality, no, even that guy is a slovenly, you know, slave to whoever's got the most guns in town, who happens to work for the state.
Yeah, like, see, that's the thing though, is that like the dynamics between the police departments here in America is vastly different. Like, yeah, obviously there's still class interests and stuff like that take place in all police departments across the world, but in America it's more specifically racialized, so it's an entirely different dynamic we're talking about here. Would I say that our elected officials at the council level, you know, are held hostage by the police essentially? I do not get that sense. I'm sure if, like, I don't know, we'd have to, like, I can't think of the last time where, like, there was a
Well, you
sort
could
of...
put it to the test, maybe, right?
Yeah,
Like...
yeah. I don't have any framework to go off of, at least from my knowledge. Like, I don't have any, like, case of mass unrest that takes place in Australia. Like, that I can, you know, bounce this idea off of. So I can't even give you I can't even give you a proper answer, really.
I understand that, because I really am kind of asking you about, like, a feeling. Like,
Yeah.
I do recognize that, and this is a feeling. I mean, you know, speaking for myself, I don't know about you, Bob, but like I felt that, like, you know, whatever the law says or whatever our system is supposed to be, no, in reality, like, it's the cops and the military, broadly speaking, men with guns, who are actually running things, even before, like, any riots started. I don't know if you feel like that, Bob.
It's really
Bob's
beautiful.
dead.
Yeah, I'm dead.
Bob.
Really
The cops got
arguable.
Bob. I don't know. It's not nothing I was ever sure about, but it always just seemed like, it was just a feeling that, like, really, if push came to shove, like, the cops would just do whatever they wanted, and America needed to get on board or not. Like, because that's basically what's happening now, right?
That was the case in like periods during the 70s and periods during the early 90s. It ebbs and flows a little bit. And like one of the funnier stories to me of like how stupid the police can be is when De Blasio got elected mayor of New York. The cops went on strike for 2 days.
Yeah, I remember that.
Thinking that like the city would turn into like Mad Max and crime actually went down. But in the years since, they've like re-exerted their control a little bit. And I think it helps. I think it helps their case that Trump and the Republicans have made a new boogeyman to be scared of. The old ones weren't really working anymore, but people are really buying into this Antifa shit.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I shouldn't laugh because it might actually be incredibly serious, but like I kept seeing different examples of people, they post something like, being Antifa is illegal. Well, I guess, I'm illegal now, so awesome. Welcome to the I'm enjoying being illegal over here. How about you, fellow citizen? Like that kind of shit. And then post below that, like, screenshotted, sent to the FBI. You're going down, scum. Like totally earnest. Like, like they mean it. Like they think if you post on Twitter that you are Antifa, like the president will now send a man to your house to like take you away.
Yeah, this is what the black helicopters are for.
Like this is what, and there are like millions of people in this dumb shit country who really believe like that's what's happening. And like I said, maybe maybe now's the time to laugh about it, but it does kind of make me, kind of like the election being canceled. That's not something I want to see happen, and I'm incredibly nervous about. And I'm also pretty nervous about this kind of thing because I mean, I'm sorry, like debates over whether the United States government is fascist or not, like they're over when the government literally says if you're Antifa, you're illegal. Like, okay, well then that means the government is anti-Antifa, so the antis.
Yeah, shorter way to say that.
There's a shorter way to say that. Yes, I don't know. It makes a lot. I've always felt lately like a lot of our arguments really that are not that old, just a few months, it seems so quaint now, right? Like whether the United States government technically meets the definition of fascism is one of these. I'm just like, oh, how cute that we were worried about this.
I'm shocked by leftists online that haven't been able to connect the dots and see that all of the Republican talk about Antifa is like the first step towards like criminalizing the left again.
I mean, yes, and they've done this before. I do think though that even as I love history and love to point out things that have happened before, the United States government in the early 20th century, when they last tried this stuff at a federal level and with a really good try, it did not have the technological capabilities that it does now. And I really do think that even though the spirit will be much the same as before, there's going to be something different just in terms of the magnitude. I mean, not that they've got all their shit together, they're an incredibly efficient totalitarian organization, but the more you try at it, the better you get at it. It's true of everything for everyone. And so as they like get better at using technological tools to hunt people down, punish them, arrest them, throw them in jail for their political beliefs, I do think it's going to be different than it was in the 1900s. You know what I mean?
Well, we have a very stupid and inefficient federal government, but they make up with that with their grotesqueness and love of violence. So
And they're
you
gonna
just-
make a good try. Like they're gonna
Right,
keep
right.
trying. And I just think, the more they do it, like even if they're incompetent now, we can laugh at them. Like they shouldn't be getting the practice. That's really the problem. Wow, dark. Need something hopeful to talk about last. Nick, quick, help.
Hello. What?
You think Australia's not in rebellion?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's boring. Shit sucks, dude. It's fucking. The only thing that's interesting is the fact that like
America is on fire.
burning
Yeah,
itself
okay.
down. It's really cool. Interesting.
Well, damn. Once again, the Australians, they let you down. They can't help you.
I mean, it is
America's always
funny.
bailing you out. You can't rebel.
I've seen this. I've seen one of these, but I assume there's definitely more that I have seen. But like a British person being like, "Oi, if you don't fucking talk about Black Lives Matter, then you'll fucking be silent on this issue." And it's like, dude, you're in the UK. I don't think you need to be explicitly.
No, even better. I was in an argument with a Tory this morning, trying to tell me that third-degree murder isn't real murder.
Oh,
cool! The murder understander is logged on.
I know I said I wanted something positive, but it does remind me of more I emoji stuff. Which is, this just happened, and so I haven't followed up on it since I first read into it. But it appears that what happened was some of the officers who were present when George Floyd was killed, a search warrant was issued, signed by a judge, to go into their lockers and check their uniforms and look for the contents of the locker. Specifically, they mentioned they're looking for a work cell phone that they haven't recovered yet of one of the people. And 15 minutes after that warrant was signed, the building where the lockers were located caught on fire. And is unclear if that fire was related or if the search was ever conducted or any evidence was moved or if anyone got their hands on any cell phones that they were looking for with presumably like texts on them. Nope, we don't know. And maybe, I'll go read later that, turns out like, we found it or whatever, but it all does seem like really curious. Just like, when it just seems like, you just so much bad luck piling up on top of this one, case. Ooh, it makes you wonder, right? Like how much of what you see is really real and how much of it isn't. And I wish I had more wisdom to offer on this question, but I don't. I feel as in the dark as everyone else does, probably.
Telling me that the police destroy evidence? My God!
Are you telling me they serve but don't protect folks?
Yeah, they serve looks.
Well, to me, like all that's been true, but now it feels like, I don't know, maybe it's because they've become more militarized than they were now, so that they're now more like spy shit. Like, we'll just dress up like protesters and ransack some shit. Like, that kind of stuff. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying like cops never did that sort of thing before. Of course they did. I did a whole Big Bill Haywood episode where cops would infiltrate unions and would often participate in and encourage violence in order to tar the protesters or trap them somehow. But I don't know. They just seem a lot more efficient about it. And importantly, back in the day, it was generally not state actors themselves doing that kind of thing. The state would hire people to do that through a detective agency. So there was at least like 1 degree of separation. But now the cops are straight up just like, yeah, I'll get my buddy, who's off duty that day to suit up in black, wear a mask, and take a hammer to, whatever. I don't know. I think that shit really is. I know that shit's happening at least some, right?
Well, you have the genius NYPD plainclothes officers trying to infiltrate protests, and when you can see like their so in New York for sure, plainclothes policemen have a color of the day code
Yeah,
so
I've
that they
heard
can
this.
recognize each other, and so you'll see like, oh look, that's weird. I see all these like roided out dudes in the crowd with orange armbands on. That's weird. And then you zoom in on their pictures, and you can, oh look, there's handcuffs in the back of his pocket. That's
then
cool.
all of a sudden you notice, like, under their hats, like they all have the same sort of haircuts.
Brand new New York Yankees hat.
Yeah, looks like nice, not worn much if at all. And I heard that like they're trained specifically that color of the day shit to be incredibly prominent, because the reason they do that is because like a few years ago one of them got murdered by like a cop who didn't know that they were an undercover cop. So now like every day they're taught like like little kindergartners, remember your color of the day so that we don't murder you, because murdering is what we do at the
Well, yeah,
NYPD.
it's like, oh shit, you're one of us. You're not a regular person. Fuck.
Oh yeah, you're one of the ones who doesn't deserve to be murdered. Like, unlike the rest of these fucking sheep, that's how it feels. And that's like, that's America. That's what they're defending. And we don't, it's kind of sad, but the romantic in me always wants to opine. We've absolutely nothing to bind us together, like as a people at all, right? Like, God is fucking dead. Liberal democracy is a fucking joke. But nationalism is a disease, and we all know where it leads. Like, we just have fucking nothing. We could have class consciousness. That would be cool, but I'm really into that. I know you guys are kind of into that, but most people are less. I don't know. They need something more, it seems, or they're just not into it yet. I don't know. I don't know if anyone has any answers to the sort of thing.
I don't have any answers, but I'm hopeful that as we're at like this unique convergence of anger with anger at police murder spilling over, with anger at unemployment due to coronavirus spilling over,
and I should add this,
it's just general inequality.
And yes, and on that last one, because my shout out to my wife, who's amazing and beautiful, who always reminds me of this. The protests are also related to the protests are also related to the fact that under the current pandemic, it is disproportionately non-white and tend to be younger too, people who work in the service economy, and they tend to be like less white than your average American citizen. They're the ones getting sick. They're the ones who usually don't have health insurance. They're the ones who are dying because of what's happening, and nobody is helping them, and nobody cares. I also think like that, Black Lives Matter, both in terms of like, the Black life should matter when, we talk of cops ending that life with a gun, or when the United States government, ends those lives with a poor pandemic response. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're at this, at least in our lifetimes, unique convergence of grievances, and I think there's a reasonable hope that some class consciousness could be brought out of it, because it's not. People are, even like the various dipshits that populate my Facebook feed are figuring out that it's not simply a racial issue or a police issue. It's an economics and class, and like the bedrock of this country is rotten and made of sand.
And
what people do with that, I don't fucking know. Like, I don't have that kind of answer. But I think with the absolutely like dire levels of class consciousness that we've had in this country over the last 50 years, any improvement is a good story.
Well, I mean, I would say, and this is really pie in the sky, but it is really truly what I believe, and it's only pie in the sky in the sense that like now more than ever, it's hard to even like imagine or talk about this sort of thing. But I really do believe that for myself as a socialist, I think humans are amazing creatures. We have so much potential. We have so much power to make the world the way we want it. And we really could, if we decided as a species to put ourselves to the task, could create a world that is sustainable and full of plenty for everyone to fully explore their own existence, lives, and potential. And we would accomplish this through, like, specialized divisions of labor and machinery, computers, and all the wonders of the modern world. I don't want to get rid of all of that. And so, even as I say, burn it all down, like, we will be needing that stuff in a certain sense, I hope. But the point is that currently that entire structure is dedicated to working upon the backs of the people you're talking about, upon people who are paid like shit, treated like shit, forced to go to work when it's not safe to do so. And if they complain about any of it at all, or even seem like they might be thinking about complaining about it at all, if they're black, their life is in danger. Just from that. And that's America for them. And that's been America for a long time. And that's sort of like, imperial violence is spreading more and more to more and more people. And we can break out of this. I really do believe it. Like, we really can create that world of plenty. I just feel like, the birth pains will be difficult. And maybe that these are what we're feeling now. It could also be that we're just like slipping away into a darkness that we'll never recover from. But if that happens, I'm going to move in with Nick. So
Yeah. You're welcome, Jeff. Bob,
sorry.
you're also welcome too. Don't worry.
I mean, yeah, I was waiting for the invitation.
Are you a top bunk guy or a bottom bunk guy?
I mean, I want to have like a 30-foot wide room where all of our beds are side by side.
Oh, lovely.
Okay.
I was thinking hammocks. We all sleep in a hammock. That way,
Like
like one
the biggest
giant
hammock.
yeah.
I mean, I'm down with either of those. I like the hammock idea a little bit better than I thought I would at first. I do want matching pajamas, like top and bottoms with the hats, though.
Well, not only the hat, but you got to have like the old timey pajama pants with the butt hatch.
Yeah, of
for,
course.
for many reasons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Am I to understand from your tone and language that like you don't think that butt hatch idea is like fucking amazing? Because
No,
I think that
I want it,
dude. Can you? It's awesome. Can you imagine? Okay, it's at night. You got to get up and you got to shit out your doo-doo ass. Okay, it's the thing that's got to happen, and you know what? You're gonna get out of those warm covers, and you're gonna slide down your pajama bottoms. The air's gonna be cold. But what if you could just do the little flaps right in the back and sit down and shit out your doo-doo ass with your like legs nice and warm? It's amazing, dude. The only thing better than that is like literally shitting in your own pants and not caring. We call that the presidential way. Trump wears a diaper, is what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, why else does he like walk so with his chest out so far?
He wears a diaper.
He's trying to keep his body as far away from the shit in his diaper as possible.
I'm not even joking. He wears a diaper. And Biden should just go there and like if Biden really wants to win the election, he should just talk about nothing but the fact that Trump wears a diaper for the
he should wear a diaper. If Biden doesn't wear a diaper, he should.
Trump
hasn't shit himself on live TV like Biden did.
Biden needs to wear a fucking diaper over his mouth. How about that?
That's like dangerously close to a Nancy Pelosi insult. Like the president has a doo-doo mouth.
Morbidly obese. Oh
my god.
Got him. I think we've got enough. Bob, is there anything that you'd like to say in conclusion before we wrap up this episode of Wellness Check?
No.
By the way, if you made it this far, I just want to let everyone know. Headline: the wellness check. It's bad. We're not bad. We're not well, really. I mean, we might.
Badness check.
Yeah, I mean, we might the fever is peaking, and maybe sometimes that's good depending on what illness you have, right? But we don't really know yet. But we know that things feel absolutely insane and not well at all. But I just wanted to headline that.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good. Feels like shit, actually. So no, nothing really in conclusion. I would like to plug my show if that's allowed.
I was gonna tell everyone, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. I mean, I could take the easy way out and just let you do it.
Well, tell us about Bad Praxis. Who's on?
So Bad Praxis, podcast I have with a couple friends, Kennedy, who you've already heard on this show before, also our friend Alex. We're starting to expand the show and record more regularly. We do have a Patreon. You can find us at badpraxis.com, at badpraxispod on Twitter. And we would love to hear from y'all. Thank you.
The only thing I was going to say in addition to that is that, like this podcast and all quality podcasts, there's no one named John or Michael on it.
Yeah, the two curse letters of J and M.
You want to avoid in almost every circumstance. There may be exceptions that I'm not thinking about or haven't found yet, but in general, if there's anyone on the podcast named John or Michael, you're gonna want to think twice. Bob, thank you for joining me and Nick. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you for coming on. Yeah.